Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be talking about the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer has always been a bit of a tricky spellcaster to play as, but during the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything push, when lots of different classes got a boost, people were talking about power creep. The Sorcerer was one of the main topics, mostly due to the subclasses involved. We're going to talk about one of those today, the Aberrant Mind. The Aberrant Mind takes the concept of the Great Old One, but switches it over to Sorcerer type. Great Old One is a Warlock subclass. Aberrant Mind says that some sort of eldritch being or eldritch event is the reason why you have your magic. However, the mechanical boost to the class is absolutely phenomenal. Let's talk about it real quick. Starting right away at number 1, when you choose the subclass, you get an expanded spell list. Now think about that for a moment. So one of the main flaws of the Sorcerer class is the fact that they get so few spells. 15 total throughout their 9 levels of spells by the end of the game. They are very, very selective with their spells because they just don't get very many. But an expanded spell list for the Sorcerer changes the whole game. What's cool about this spell list, the psionic spell list, is that I could sit here and tell you about the telepathic, psychic nature of the spells, but in reality it actually doesn't matter that much. Because this spell list, it adds spells to your spells known, a total of 10 by the time you hit 5th level spells at level 9. Which means that already you have practically doubled the number of spells you know by mid-game compared to other sorcerers, but you can retrain them out. So this just fixes a giant gaping hole in the Sorcerer class, so I give the psionic spell list, regardless of what's on it, because whether you like the spells or not is actually kind of irrelevant, since you can change them. So 10 out of 10 for just fixing the Sorcerer class with a subclass feature. But there are some cool features here as well to discuss. Also at level 1, you get telepathic speech. You designate a creature within 30 feet of you, and you guys share a telepathic communication, two-way, which is nice. This effect has a range, which goes for a few miles, a number of miles equal to your charisma modifier. But the effect only lasts for a few minutes, so I don't know why it has such an extended range. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, unless one of you is about to teleport, I suppose. But all in all, telepathy is good. I mean, it allows you to just communicate with folks without speaking, and that's just great for metagaming and other things like that. The short time limit's a bit of a stretch, but still a good power. I give it 8 out of 10, personally. Now, at level 6, you get 2 other features. You get Psychic Defenses, which is pretty simple. You gain resistance to psychic damage, and you get advantage against charm and fear effects. So, some really good defensive abilities. Nothing to complain about, 9 out of 10. The other thing you get is Psionic Sorcery. This allows you to cast spells using sorcery points, which sorcerers can kind of do anyway. They can transform sorcery points into spell slots. It's one of the features of sorcery points. What's cool, though, is that in order to turn sorcery points into spell slots, you have to pay a tax. Effectively, if you spend a certain number of sorcery points, you don't get the same level spell slot number to number. I think it's like 2 sorcery points gets you a 1st level spell slot, 3 sorcery points gets you a 2nd, 5 gets you a 3rd, etc. Like there's a transfer tax there. Psionic Sorcery says, don't worry about that. Don't worry even a little bit about that. You can just cast the spell using the number of sorcery points equal to the level of the spell. So a 1st level spell costs 1 sorcery point to cast. Easy. which would already be a cool power, getting a nice little discount on your sorcery point conversions, but it actually gets better because when you cast a spell in this way, you don't need the components, the verbal, the somatic, or the material, unless it's a costly consumable. So it basically gives you subtle spell for free when you do this, which is already something you could be spending a sorcery point on. So like, if you want to spend a first level spell subtly, rather than casting with a first level spell slot, which would cost you 2 sorcery points anyway, and using a sorcery point to subtle spell it, now you can just spend the 1 sorcery point, cast it using psionic sorcery, and get subtle spell for free. This is great. This is really, really stretches out sorcery points, which is another thing the sorcerer needed. So this patch is another big hole in the sorcerer class. So 10 out of 10, again, for psionic sorcery. Now at number 14, at level 14, we get the Revelation in Flesh feature, arguably the most disgustingly named one, which allows you to spend sorcery points to change your form. Spend a sorcery point, you can give your body a new attribute. You can gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed. No complaints there. You can gain a swimming speed equal to twice your walking speed and the ability to breathe underwater. That makes the swimming speed actually a pretty advantageous thing if you're ever going to go in the water. You can also gain the power to see invisibility. So if you ever are fighting invisible creatures, that's going to come in handy. And finally, and most interestingly, you can gain an amorphous form, which allows you to squeeze through cracks that are an inch narrow, 1 inch narrow. Well, what's cool about this though is a lot of things give you this power. There are some races and creatures that allow you to do this, but they cannot bring gear with them. Revelation in Flesh actually says you can. You don't have to leave your gear behind. It actually squeezes with you, which makes that ability much more powerful. Like, you don't have to strip down to squeeze through a 1 inch gap. You just use this, and you can just narrowly go through and keep all your equipment with you. This is great. Flying speed, swimming speed, breathing underwater, seeing invisibility, a superpowered amorphous form, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, no question. Even at this high level of play, this is great. And then finally, you get the 18th level feature, Warping Implosion. This is a black hole bomb. Effectively, once per day for free, you can teleport 120 feet. Nice teleport effect. And then a 30-foot area around where you disappeared turns into a black hole. Creatures make a strength save, or they're pulled in. They take 3d10 force damage, and all get clustered together around where you teleported. So it's kind of like Thunderstep, except it's a suction and it's stronger. And you can do it once for free per long rest, or you can spend 5 sorcery points to do it again, which is also, you know, a bit of an expensive use of your sorcery points, but since you've been saving sorcery points all this time with psionic sorcery, it's not bad. Honestly, it's not a bad power. I do, like, if it was 3 sorcery points to do it again instead of 5, and if the damage was a little higher, I might call it 10 out of 10. As it stands, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'd use this. I'd definitely use it the once for free, and I'd consider using it if there was an emergency situation. At 18th level, you know, maybe your mileage may vary, but I still think it's a great power. Overall, what I find most intriguing about this subclass is the fact that it truly patches 2 massive holes in the Sorcerer. The limited spells and the limited sorcery points. It makes wonderful use of both of those problems, fixing them. The other class features, hit or miss. Okay. Not bad at all, but certainly not as game-changing as those other 2 parts. So I say 9 out of 10 for the Aberrant Mind overall. If you're going to play a Sorcerer, this one absolutely is a fantastic one to pick. And as Sorcerers go, you can't do much better than this. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below, and keep your eyes peeled for more spellcasting reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.